The metallic screech of the ladder sliding against the archive shelf cut through the morning silence like a blade. Emma Rosewood's fingers clawed desperately at empty air as gravity claimed her. The Henderson Project files exploded around her in a chaos of white paper and broken dreams. The impact sent lightning through her ankle and shame through her heart. She lay among the scattered documents on the cold marble floor, her carefully constructed invisibility shattered in an instant. 3 years of perfect work, of blending into shadows, of being the reliable ghost who kept Cross Industries running smoothly, all destroyed in one clumsy moment. Footsteps approached. Expensive Italian leather on polished stone. Her stomach dropped further than her body had from the ladder. Sebastian Cross stood in the doorway, his 6-foot frame casting a shadow that seemed to swallow the light. His gray eyes swept over the scene with the calculating precision that had built his empire. Emma waited for the cold dismissal, the corporate efficiency that would erase her from his world as easily as deleting a file. Instead, he moved toward her with surprising urgency. "Don't move." His voice carried an authority that brooked no argument, yet underneath lay something else, something that made Emma's breath catch despite the pain radiating from her ankle. Sebastian knelt beside her without regard for his $1,000 suit, his hands hovering over her injured leg with unexpected gentleness. "Where does it hurt most?" "My ankle," she whispered, then quickly added, "But I'm fine. Mr. Cross, really, I can work through this." His fingers found the swelling with gentle precision, and Emma saw something flicker in his usually impassive face. A crack in the armor she'd only observed from afar. "You're not fine." He said it softly, his thumb tracing over her skin where the bruise was already forming. "You're hurt, and it's my company's fault." The way he said hurt made it sound like a personal failing, as if her pain had somehow wounded him too. Emma stared up at his face, noting details she'd never been close enough to see before. The small scar near his left temple, the way his jaw tensed when he was thinking, the unexpected warmth in eyes she'd always thought were cold as winter steel. I should call Dr. Wilson. But his hands remained on her ankle, his touch sending heat up her leg that had nothing to do with injury. "Please don't," Emma said, panic creeping into her voice. "I can't afford to miss work. I can't afford the medical bills. I just need to stand up." "Emma." The way he said her name stopped her mid-sentence. She'd never heard him say it before. Hadn't even been sure he knew it. But on his lips, it sounded different, important. "Look at me." When their eyes met, something shifted between them. The corporate hierarchy, the careful professional distance, the invisible walls she'd built around herself, all of it seemed to crumble in that moment of shared vulnerability. Sebastian reached up with his free hand and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered against her cheek, and Emma saw his composure crack completely. A single tear tracked down his face. The man the business world called heartless had just shown her his heart, and it was breaking. "I'm taking you to my private medical suite," he said, scooping her up before she could protest. Emma had never been carried before, had never felt so small yet so significant in someone's arms. His cologne mixed with something uniquely him, something that made her want to bury her face in his neck and forget the world existed. The executive floor medical suite was pristine and private, designed for discretion that suddenly felt intimate. Sebastian laid her carefully on the examination table, his hands reluctant to leave her body. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice rough with an emotion she couldn't name. "Something I should have said a long time ago." Before he could continue, his phone buzzed. His face went rigid as he read the screen, all warmth draining away like water through a shattered dam. "My family knows you're here," he whispered. And for the first time, Emma heard fear in Sebastian Cross's voice. "Emma, you need to understand something. The people I come from, they're not like other families. They're dangerous. And now that they've seen me carry you up here like you matter to me..." He looked at her with eyes full of anguish and something deeper, something that made her heart race despite the warning in his words. "You're in danger. Because of me." The words hung between them like smoke from a gun barrel. "What do you mean, dangerous?" Emma's voice came out smaller than she intended. The medical suite suddenly felt like a cage. Sebastian paced to the window, his shoulders tight with tension. Outside, the city glittered with ignorant beauty, unaware of the darkness breeding in its towers. "My father built Cross Industries on blood money," he said without turning around. "Laundering, extortion, deals with people who make monsters look tame. I've spent 10 years trying to legitimize this company, trying to wash the stain off our name. But the family, they still operate in the shadows, and they watch everything I do." Emma's ankle throbbed, but the pain was nothing compared to the ice spreading through her chest. "Then why are you telling me this?" He turned, and the look on his face stole her breath. Raw, desperate, terrified. "Because they saw me break protocol for you. They saw me feel something, and to them, that makes you a weakness they can exploit, or a threat they can eliminate. I don't understand. I'm nobody, just a secretary." "Don't." The word came out sharp, almost angry. Sebastian crossed the room in 3 strides, cupping her face with both hands. "Don't ever say that again. You're the only person in this entire building who looks at me like I'm human. Do you have any idea what that's worth?" His thumbs traced her cheekbones with reverent precision, and Emma felt herself leaning into his touch, despite every logical thought screaming at her to run. "You've been noticing me?" she whispered. A bitter laugh escaped him. "Noticing you? Emma, you've been haunting me for 3 years. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. How you always make fresh coffee at 2 p.m. because you know that's when I need it most. The fact that you reorganized my entire filing system last year and thought I wouldn't notice it was suddenly perfect." Each word landed on her skin like a match to kindling. "I thought I was invisible to you. I needed you to be." His forehead dropped to rest against hers, his breath warm on her lips. "Because if I let myself see you, really see you, I knew I'd want this." "Want what?" Instead of answering, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle or hesitant. It was years of restraint shattering in a single moment, his mouth claiming hers with desperate hunger. Emma gasped against him, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer, even as warning bells screamed in her mind. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the world had shifted on its axis. "We can't," Emma said, even as her fingers refused to release him. "You just said I'm in danger. You're already in danger. The second they noticed you, it was too late." His jaw clenched. "But I can protect you. I have resources, security, ways to keep you safe if you'll let me." "And what do you want in return?" The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither could ignore. Honestly, Sebastian's gray eyes burned into hers. "Everything. I want to know what makes you laugh. I want to hear about the life you live outside these walls. I want to fall asleep listening to your heartbeat and wake up knowing you're still there. I want things I have no right to want from someone I've kept at arm's length for 3 years." Emma's rational mind cataloged all the reasons this was insane. He was her boss. His family was criminal. She was ordinary and broken and barely surviving. But her heart recognized something in him that mirrored her own scars. They were both survivors, both hiding, both desperately lonely in different ways. "My apartment," she heard herself say. "They'll look there first, won't they?" Sebastian nodded grimly. "I'm moving you to a secure location tonight. My penthouse. It has security systems even my family can't breach. People will talk. Let them." He helped her down from the examination table, steadying her when she wobbled. "The moment I carried you onto this floor, the rumors started anyway. Might as well make them true." As he wrapped a protective arm around her waist, Emma's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her look at the screen. The message turned her blood to ice. "Does she know what you did to your last secretary, Sebastian? Or should I tell her about the accident?" Emma's hands shook as she showed him the message. Sebastian's face went white, then hardened into something terrifying. "Who sent this?" Emma demanded. "And what happened to your last secretary?" He looked at her with eyes full of guilt and grief. And Emma realized with sinking certainty that whatever he was about to tell her would change everything. "Her name was Claire," Sebastian said quietly. "And she's dead because of me." The name Claire fell between them like a stone into still water, sending ripples of dread through Emma's chest. "Tell me." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "All of it." Sebastian guided her to a chair, his hands gentle despite the tension coiling through his body like wire about to snap. He sat across from her, close enough to touch but separated by the weight of confession. 4 years ago, Claire Hendricks was my executive assistant. Brilliant, efficient, kind. His voice carried the hollow quality of old grief. She found discrepancies in our accounts. Money moving through channels that didn't exist on paper. She brought it to me because she trusted me. Rain began to tap against the windows, a rhythm like distant drums. I was young, stupid, thought I could handle it internally. I confronted my brother Marcus about the laundering operation he was running through my company. Sebastian's hands clenched into fists. I didn't know he was being watched by federal investigators. I didn't know they'd think Claire was involved. Emma's throat tightened. What happened? Marcus made it look like Claire was the one embezzling. Planted evidence, falsified records, destroyed her reputation overnight. The muscle in Sebastian's jaw jumped. She called me, begging me to help clear her name. I told her I would handle it, that I just needed time to gather proof against Marcus. He stood abruptly, unable to sit with the memory. 3 days later, her car went off a bridge. Single vehicle accident, they called it. But I knew. Marcus knew. She'd become a liability, and my family solves those problems permanently. The words hit Emma like physical blows. She thought of the message on her phone, the implicit threat hanging over her own head. You think they'll do the same to me? I won't let them. Sebastian turned, and the fierce protectiveness in his eyes made her believe him, despite every logical reason not to. I was weak then, trying to work within the system, playing by rules my family never followed. But I'm not that person anymore. Then who are you? Before he could answer, the medical suite door crashed open. A man who looked like a sharper, crueler version of Sebastian strode in, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits with killer's eyes. Well, isn't this touching? Marcus Cross's smile was a blade. Little brother playing hero again. We all know how that ended last time. Sebastian moved instantly, placing himself between Emma and the intruders with predatory grace. Get out, Marcus. Now that's not very hospitable. I came to meet the woman who's made you forget your place in this family. Marcus's gaze slid past Sebastian to Emma, assessing her like merchandise. She's prettier than Claire. I'll give you that. Though I wonder if she'll scream as loud when she realizes what you really are. Touch her, and I'll burn this entire empire to the ground. Sebastian's voice dropped to something sub-zero. Every account, every operation, every dirty secret. I'll hand it all to the FBI with a bow. Marcus laughed, but Emma heard the edge of uncertainty beneath it. You won't. You've spent a decade building legitimacy. You wouldn't throw that away for some secretary. Try me. The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Marcus's expression shifted, something calculating sliding behind his eyes. Fine, keep your little pet. But father wants to meet her. Tomorrow night. Family dinner. He adjusted his cufflinks with practiced ease. Non-negotiable. Unless you want us to assume she's more than just a temporary distraction. With that, Marcus and his shadows departed, leaving poison in their wake. Emma stood on shaking legs, her ankle forgotten beneath the adrenaline screaming through her veins. I'm not going to some dinner with your criminal family. You have to. Sebastian gripped her shoulders gently. If you refuse, they'll see you as an outsider, a threat. But if you come, play the role of the woman I'm seeing, there's a chance they'll see you as controllable, someone they can manipulate or use against me, which means they'll keep you alive. That's insane. That's survival in the Cross family. Emma pulled away from him, her mind spinning through implications and exits. She'd grown up poor, invisible, unremarkable. Now she was trapped in a web of wealth and violence she didn't understand. Why me? The question burst out raw and desperate. Of all the women in the world, why did you have to look at me? Why did you have to make me matter? Sebastian's face crumpled with something beyond regret. Because when I look at you, I remember what it feels like to be human. You're not impressed by money or power. You don't want anything from me except to be seen. He moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. After Claire died, I promised myself I'd never let anyone close again. But you, Emma, you slipped past every defense I built, and now I'm terrified because I can't lose you. But keeping you might destroy you. She should run. Every survival instinct screamed at her to disappear into the city and never look back. Instead, she reached up and touched his face, feeling the sharp line of his jaw, the warmth of his skin, the realness of him beneath the armor. Then teach me how to survive this. Her voice steadied with decision. Teach me how to play their game well enough to stay alive, because I'm not ready to give this up. Whatever this is between us, I'm not ready for it to end. Relief and terror warred across Sebastian's features. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair like she was oxygen and he was drowning. We start tonight. I'll teach you everything you need to know about my family, their dynamics, their weaknesses. His arms tightened around her. And Emma, no matter what happens at that dinner, no matter what you see or hear, remember this moment. Remember that everything I do from here on out is to keep you breathing. Emma's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Dinner tomorrow at 8. Wear something black. You'll be mourning the life you used to have. P.S. Ask Sebastian about the deal he made with Father 3 years ago. Ask him why he really hired you. Emma's blood froze. She looked up at Sebastian, seeing the guilt flash across his face before he could hide it. What deal? She asked quietly. What did you agree to 3 years ago? And in his silence, Emma understood that the man she was falling for had been lying to her from the very beginning. The silence between them stretched like broken glass, sharp and cutting. Emma, let me explain. Sebastian's voice cracked on her name, but she stepped back, putting distance between them like armor. What? Deal? He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture destroying his usual composure. When he looked at her, his eyes held the kind of pain that comes from truths too heavy to carry. After Claire died, my father gave me an ultimatum. Either I fully commit to the family business, stop trying to legitimize the company, let them use Cross Industries as a front for their operations, or... He stopped, jaw working. Or what? Or he'd go after everyone I cared about. My mother, who's been trying to leave him for years. The handful of friends I had outside the family. Anyone who represented the life I wanted instead of the one he built. Rain hammered against the windows now, matching the storm building in Emma's chest. So you made a deal. I told him I'd play the part. The cold, ruthless CEO. I'd stop fighting the family's underground operations in exchange for their safety. Sebastian's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. And I'd prove my commitment by keeping everyone at arm's length. No relationships, no vulnerabilities. No one they could use against me. Emma's hands trembled as understanding crystallized. But you needed someone. An assistant you could trust to help you document everything. To build a case quietly. I needed someone they wouldn't see as a threat. Someone smart enough to help me, but invisible enough to go unnoticed. His eyes pleaded with her to understand. I hired you because you were qualified, yes. But also because in the interview, you told me you had no family, no close friends. That you preferred being unnoticed. You seemed safe. The words struck like knives. Safe. She repeated it like a curse. You hired me because I was alone. Because if they killed me, no one would care enough to investigate. No! Sebastian moved toward her, but she held up a hand, stopping him cold. That's not I didn't think, Emma, please. It started as strategy, but you, what you became to me, that was never part of any plan. When did I become real to you? The question came out bitter as poison. Last week? Yesterday? Or just this morning when I fell and you suddenly remembered I was human? You want the truth? His voice turned raw. 6 months into your employment. You stayed late one night. Thought I'd gone home. I heard you crying in your office. You'd just gotten an eviction notice and you were on the phone with your landlord begging for 2 more weeks. You kept apologizing for being a burden. The memory sliced through Emma like glass. The worst night of her life, and he'd been listening. I paid your rent that night, Sebastian continued. Anonymously. I've been paying it ever since, along with other things. Medical bills, car repairs, that emergency dental work last year. Every time you struggled, I made sure it got handled without you knowing. Emma's world tilted. The mysterious benefactor. That was you? I told myself I was just protecting an asset, making sure you stayed stable enough to help me gather evidence. But I was lying to myself. He laughed bitterly. I was already falling for you. And that terrified me because it meant my father was right. I'm weak. You make me weak. Don't put that on me. Anger finally broke through Emma's shock, hot and righteous. Don't you dare make me responsible for your choices. The door opened again. This time an older man entered. Broad-shouldered, silver-haired, with Sebastian's eyes gone cold and calculating. Power radiated from him like heat from a furnace. So this is the girl causing all the fuss. Victor Cross assessed Emma with the efficiency of a man who'd spent a lifetime evaluating assets and liabilities. You don't look like much. Father. Sebastian's voice carried a warning that Victor ignored completely. I came to discuss tomorrow's dinner. There's been a change of plans. Victor pulled out his phone, tapping the screen before turning it toward them. We've acquired some interesting information about Miss Rosewood here. Emma's face stared back at her from the screen. But not the Emma of today. This was Emma at 16, hollow-eyed and rail-thin, being led away in handcuffs. No, the word fell from her lips like a stone. Arrested for theft and assault. Spent 6 months in juvenile detention before the charges were mysteriously dropped. Victor's smile was shark-like. Someone sealed these records very thoroughly. Cost me a considerable amount to unseal them. So tell me, Emma, what were you stealing? And who did you assault? Sebastian looked between them, confused and horrified. Emma, she couldn't breathe. The walls closed in, dragging her back to the worst period of her life. To hunger and desperation and the foster father who thought 13-year-old girls existed for his pleasure. I stole food, she said quietly, each word extracted like shrapnel. From a convenience store. Because the people who were supposed to take care of me spent the government money on drugs, and I assaulted my foster father when he came into my room for the 3rd night in a row. The silence that followed carried the weight of broken childhoods. Victor's expression didn't change. Compelling story. True or not, it paints an interesting picture. The desperate girl, the powerful man, the convenient timing of your hire. He leaned forward. Tomorrow's dinner is now a press conference. We're announcing Sebastian's engagement. What? Sebastian's voice cracked like thunder. To Victoria Ashford, as planned. Daughter of the Attorney General, impeccable pedigree, politically advantageous. Victor's tone allowed no argument. You've had your fun with the help, Sebastian. Time to remember your place. Emma watched Sebastian's face cycle through emotions too fast to name. Then something shifted. His shoulders straightened. His expression went cold as the marble floor she'd fallen on this morning. No, he said simply. Excuse me? I said no. Sebastian moved to Emma's side, taking her hand in his. I'm not marrying Victoria. I'm not playing your games anymore. And if you try to hurt Emma, I'll do exactly what I threatened Marcus. Every dirty secret, every illegal operation delivered to the FBI. Victor's laugh was genuinely amused. You think you have leverage? Son, I've been planning for your eventual rebellion since you were 12 years old. He pulled out another phone, this one showing a video. Emma's stomach dropped as she recognized herself on the screen, in the archive room this morning. But the angle was wrong, edited. It showed Sebastian's hands on her, her gasps that sounded like pleasure rather than pain, the intimacy of him carrying her to the medical suite. Sexual harassment, Victor explained casually. The vulnerable secretary, the powerful boss taking advantage. I have testimony from 6 employees who will swear they've witnessed inappropriate behavior. Your reputation will be destroyed within hours of this going public. You wouldn't. But Sebastian's voice held no conviction. I would, unless you marry Victoria, cut ties with Miss Rosewood, and stop this crusade to legitimize a business that was never meant to be legitimate. Victor stood. You have until tomorrow night to decide. The family dynasty or the secretary. Choose wisely. After he left, Emma pulled her hand from Sebastian's, her decision crystallizing like ice. Don't! Sebastian read her intention immediately. Don't you dare sacrifice yourself for me. One of us has to be smart here. She backed toward the door, ignoring the pain in her ankle and heart. I won't let you throw away everything because of me. Your mother's safety, your friends, your company, all of it depends on you playing their game. Emma, please. That girl in the video, the one from the records, she knows how to survive. Tears blurred her vision, but she forced the words out. She's been alone before. She can be alone again. I love you. The confession broke from Sebastian like a dam bursting. I know I have no right to say it. I know it's too soon and too complicated. But I love you. That's why I broke. That's why I'm willing to burn it all down. Emma stopped at the door, her hand on the handle, her heart shattering in her chest. Then love me enough to let me go. Because if you don't, we'll both end up like Claire. And I'd rather live knowing you're alive somewhere, even if you're with someone else. She walked out before he could respond, before she could change her mind, before the tears fell and unmade her completely. Behind her, she heard him call her name. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because sometimes love meant walking away, even when every step felt like dying. 24 hours could feel like a lifetime when you were dying by degrees. Emma sat in her small apartment, the one Sebastian had been secretly paying for, surrounded by boxes. She'd quit that morning via email, professional and brief. 3 years of dedication reduced to 2 paragraphs and a resignation effective immediately. Her phone had been ringing non-stop. Sebastian, over and over. She couldn't answer. If she heard his voice, she'd break. Rain streaked down the windows like tears the sky cried on her behalf. Outside, the city moved on, indifferent to the way her world had ended in a medical suite with expensive lighting and the taste of a kiss still burning on her lips. A knock at the door made her jump. Heavy, authoritative, not Sebastian's hesitant tap. She opened it to find Marcus Cross, alone this time, looking almost human without his predatory smile. "I'm not here to threaten you," he said before she could slam the door. "Can I come in?" Every instinct screamed no, but curiosity won. She stepped aside. Marcus surveyed her sparse apartment with something that might have been sympathy. "You really love him. Why are you here?" "Because my brother is currently sitting in Father's study with a loaded gun, and he's not planning to shoot Father." Marcus's jaw tightened. He's made a different choice, one that solves all his problems at once. Ice flooded Emma's veins. "No, he called the FBI an hour ago. Gave them everything. Every account, every operation, every name including his own. He's going down with the ship, taking the whole family with him." Marcus pulled out his phone, showing her a message. "This is his suicide note. He sent it to me, to Mother, to his lawyer. He's ending it tonight before the arrests start tomorrow." Emma's hands shook as she read Sebastian's words. Formal, apologetic, final. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm not a complete monster, despite what my brother thinks." Marcus's expression hardened. "And because Father's empire falling means my empire falls too. I need Sebastian alive, cooperative, and married to Victoria. You're the only leverage that works anymore." Understanding dawned like a blade. "You want me to convince him to back down. I want you to save his life." Marcus leaned forward. "Go to him. Tell him you'll disappear, stay away. Whatever pretty lie makes him put down the gun and call off the FBI. In exchange, I'll give you something Father would kill me for." He handed her a flash drive. "What is this?" "Evidence that clears Claire Hendrick's name. Proof Marcus Cross framed her, that her death was murder, not accident. Enough to put me in prison for a very long time." His smile was bitter, insurance that I'll keep my word. "You save Sebastian, I give you justice for Claire, and we all live to hate each other another day." Emma stared at the flash drive, understanding the weight of what he offered. Justice for a dead woman, safety for a living man, and all it cost was her heart. "Where is he?" "The penthouse. He's been there since you left, drinking expensive scotch and writing goodbyes." Marcus headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, you're better than Victoria. Better than any of us deserve. He was right to love you." After he left, Emma sat frozen. She could walk away. Let Sebastian make his choice. Let the family fall. Let justice finally come for the Cross Empire. But she'd seen the look in his eyes when he talked about Claire. The guilt that ate him alive. If he died tonight, it wouldn't be justice. It would be another tragedy in a family full of them. She grabbed her coat. The penthouse was dark except for the city lights bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows. Sebastian sat on the floor, back against the couch, a bottle in one hand and his father's antique pistol in the other. Emma. Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a curse. "You shouldn't be here. Neither should you." She walked over slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. "Not like this. It's better this way. Father goes to prison, Mother gets her freedom, you get to live without looking over your shoulder." He laughed bitterly. "Everyone wins. Except I lose you. You already walked away. To save you, you idiot." The words burst out raw and desperate. To give you a chance at the life you deserved, not to push you toward a bullet. Sebastian looked up at her with eyes red from crying or drinking or both. What life, Emma? One where I marry a woman I don't love while knowing I let you go. One where I spend every day wondering if you're okay, if you're eating, if some landlord is giving you trouble and I'm not there to fix it. His hand tightened on the gun. That's not life. That's a different kind of death. Emma dropped to her knees in front of him, taking his face in her hands, forcing him to see her. Then choose life. Real life. Messy and complicated, and maybe we don't get a fairy tale ending, but we get to keep breathing. Tears streamed down her face. I'll disappear if that's what it takes. I'll go so far away your family never finds me. But you have to promise me you'll live. You'll marry Victoria, play their game, and you'll survive long enough to eventually be free of them. I can't watch you leave again. You won't. Her voice broke. I'll leave tonight. Right now, I'll walk out that door and you'll never see me again. It'll be like I never existed. You exist in every breath I take. Sebastian set down the gun, his hands coming up to cover hers. You're in my blood, Emma. You don't just walk away from that. People do it every day. Soldiers, witnesses in protection, people who love each other but can't be together. She pressed her forehead to his. We'll be a story we tell ourselves when we're old. The what if that haunts us. Better that than one of us at the other's funeral. He kissed her then, desperate and breaking and goodbye, wrapped into one moment. It tasted like scotch and tears and all the futures they'd never have. When they finally pulled apart, Emma stood on shaking legs. I need you to promise me something, she said. 10 years from now, if you're free of them, if the company is clean and your family has no more hold on you, find me. If you still feel the same way, find me. But only then. Only when it's safe. 10 years. Or however long it takes. She backed toward the door, memorizing every detail of his face. Be ruthless, Sebastian. Be the cold CEO they need you to be. Survive. That's all I'm asking. Emma, wait. He stood, swaying slightly. You need to know something. The file, the evidence about Claire, Marcus has it. If something happens to me, make sure it gets to the authorities. Give her the justice I couldn't. She thought of the flash drive in her pocket, the deal she'd already made, and nodded. At the door, she paused one last time. I love you. Past tense, present tense, future tense. That doesn't change just because I'm leaving. I love you. His voice cracked. In every language that exists and some that don't. Emma walked out before she could change her mind. In the elevator, she let herself break, sobbing against the mirrored walls, watching multiple versions of herself fall apart. In her pocket, the flash drive felt heavy as a future. She didn't disappear that night. Instead, she went to the FBI field office and handed over everything Marcus had given her. She gave her statement about Claire, about the Cross family, about everything she'd witnessed and learned. Then she did disappear. New name, new city, new life built from the ashes of the old one. Years passed. Emma rebuilt herself in Seattle, working at a small nonprofit that helped at-risk youth. She thought of Sebastian every day, saw his face in the news, cold and controlled, standing beside Victoria at charity events, watched him slowly transform Cross Industries into something legitimate. 10 years felt like forever, and like no time at all. Then, on a rainy Tuesday that felt like a memory, Emma opened her apartment door to find a man standing there. Older, with threads of silver in his dark hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of hard years survived. But those gray eyes were unchanged. And the way he looked at her made her heart remember what it felt like to fall. You're free, she whispered. Father died 2 years ago. Mother finally left. Marcus is in prison, thanks to your testimony. Victoria and I divorced last year after we both admitted we were only staying together out of habit. Sebastian's voice held a decade of grief and hope. I sold Cross Industries to a company that will keep it clean. I have nothing now except what I saved, which is substantial but meaningless without the person I saved it for. Emma's hands shook. 10 years. 10 years, 3 months, and 17 days since you walked out of my penthouse. He took a step closer. I'm not a billionaire anymore. I'm not anyone's boss. I'm just Sebastian Cross. and I've spent a decade trying to become someone worthy of Emma Rosewood. You were always worthy. The words came out choked. You just couldn't see it. Can I come in? She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. They stood in her small living room, the space between them charged with everything they'd lost and everything they might still have. I don't know how to do this, Sebastian admitted. I don't know how to be with someone without it being complicated or dangerous or wrong. Then we'll learn together. Emma reached out, taking his hand in hers, marveling at how it still fit perfectly. No empires, no families, no secrets. Just two broken people trying to heal. And if we can't, then we'll be broken together. She smiled through tears. That's still better than being apart. He pulled her close, and this time when they kissed, it didn't taste like goodbye. It tasted like beginning, like survival, like two people who'd walked through fire and somehow found each other on the other side. Outside, rain fell on Seattle like blessing. Inside, two hearts remembered how to beat in sync. They didn't get their fairy tale, but they got their second chance. And sometimes, for the people brave enough to sacrifice everything, that's enough. 10 years of waiting, a lifetime of loving, and finally, coming home. The end.